And over the last few days, there's been a real back and forth going on here. Senator McCain has said over and over again,
timetable. He said he wanted a timetable. Timetables was the buzzwords. Timetables were the ones. Timetables for withdrawal or not. Timetables were the buzzword.
Question.
Timetables was the buzzword. I've raised that many times.
I want to give Senator McCain.
And I will continue to raise it. And the buzzword was timetables. Timetables. Quote, timetables. Timetables was the buzzword. Timetables was the buzzword. But the point is, we're not going to talk about timetables or anything else.
Is that true?
Absolutely, unequivocally, absolutely no. I have never, ever supported a specific timetable, and it's offensive to me that someone would suggest that I have. And I have noted that everyone from Time Magazine to Bill Bennett over there to actually CNN's own analyst, he said it was a lie. There's not a single media source that I've seen that hasn't said it was reprehensible. Even the New York Times said it was wrong. The Washington Post, they endorsed you. The Washington Post gave you 3 Pinocchios for it. It's simply wrong. And the senator knows it.
And as far as Washington top politics is concerned, I was prepared to sacrifice whatever was necessary. It's a matter of casualties.
In your radio address yesterday, you raised the S word. Socialism, but you did it indirectly. So let me ask you for some straight talk. Do you think that Senator Obama is a socialist? Do you think that his plans are socialism?
I think his plans are redistribution of the wealth. He said it himself. We need to spread the wealth around. Now, that's one of the tenets of socialism. At least in Europe, the socialist leaders who so admire my opponent. It's a false argument. It's a false argument. I think his plans are redistribution of the wealth.
That's
one of the tenets of socialism.
Like socialism.
Just socialism, a lot of other liberal and left-wing philosophies. Redistribution of the wealth, I don't believe in it.
As the senators begin debate on the budget, I want to briefly discuss why at this time I cannot in good conscience vote in favor of tax cuts.
I voted against the tax cuts because of the disproportionate amount that went to the wealthiest Americans.
To him, like socialism.
The reason why I opposed the last round was because what I felt was a disproportionate favoring of the wealthiest 1%.
But the middle income tax credits, the families, the child tax credits, the marriage tax credit, all those I would keep. I voted against the tax cut. I voted against it because I didn't think there was sufficient relief for working Americans.
You want to target the middle-class people, and you're willing to live with the rich people paying the taxes.
And I don't want to take anyone. In fact, the program that I have gives them a slight tax increase.
When you reach a certain level of comfort, there's nothing wrong with paying somewhat more.
It sounded to him like socialism.
Socialism, a lot of other liberal and left-wing philosophies. Redistribution of the wealth, I don't believe in it.
You voted for the $700 billion bailout that's being used partially to nationalize American banks. Isn't that socialism?
That's one of the tenets of socialism, redistribution of the wealth. Not just socialism, a lot of other. They're bailing out the banks, they're bailing out these institutions.
But you voted for that.
Of course, greed and access. I was prepared to sacrifice whatever was necessary. It's a matter of casualties. Tim, could I mention that I voted against the tax cut. I voted against it because I didn't think there was sufficient relief for working Americans.
The irony is that when George Bush proposed the original tax cuts that lowered tax rates for the wealthiest Americans, who objected? John McCain, who said these were irresponsible and said that they would prevent middle-class tax relief, that they weren't properly targeted. Now, was John McCain a socialist back in 2000 when he opposed the Bush tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans? Because all I'm trying to do is reverse those so that we can give relief to people who really need help. It's not a very plausible argument that he's making right now. I think it's an indication that they have run out of ideas.
Tim, could I mention?
Did McCain's negativity play in your decision, in the negative tone of the campaign?
It troubled me. I thought that was over the top. It was beyond just good political fighting back and forth. I think it went beyond. And so, yes, that kind of negativity troubled me. And the constant shifting of the argument, I was troubled. And now, I guess, the message this week is we're going to call him a socialist. Mr. Obama is now a socialist because he dares to suggest that maybe we ought to look at the tax structure that we have. Taxes are always a redistribution of money. Most of the taxes that are redistributed go back to those who pay them in roads and airports and hospitals and schools. And taxes are necessary for the common good. And there's nothing wrong with examining what our tax structure is, or who should be paying more, who should be paying less. And for us to say that that makes you a socialist, I think is an unfortunate characterization that isn't accurate. We have got to stop this kind of nonsense, pull ourselves together, and remember that our great strength is in our unity and in our diversity. And so that really was driving me. And, you know, we have two wars. We have economic problems. We have health problems. We have education problems. We have infrastructure problems. We have problems around the world with our allies. And so those are the problems the American people wanted to hear about.
It's a false argument. It's a false argument.
Sort of falls in the kind of dirty tricks that I think Ronald Reagan would have found to be reprehensible. And what's interesting here is it's an attempt to do the Washington-style old politics, which is lay a charge out there, regardless of whether it's true or not. Don't just throw it out there. Get it in the media, in the stream.
There's the tenets of socialism.
Like socialism.
Socialism is redistribution of the wealth, our redistribution of the wealth. He said it himself. We need to spread the wealth around. Now, that's one of the tenets of socialism.
At least in Europe, the socialist leaders.
It's simply wrong. I want to give, and the senator knows it.
And as far as Washington top politics is concerned, I was prepared to sacrifice whatever was necessary. It's a matter of casualties.
This is the theater of the absurd, my friends. This is the theater of the absurd. You can't